Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Economics Design Podcast. I'm Giovanni, a consultant here at Economics Design. And today I have Fehmi with me, a colleague, and we'll be talking about account abstraction. If you want, we can start by just introducing ourselves real quick to the ones who don't know us. As I said, I'm Gio. I work more in the DeFi and infra side, usually working with clients on token audits, due diligence, or just doing economy design. So whatever is involved in the economy design from projects along the lines of those sectors, I'm usually involved with. And Fehmi works alongside with me. So if you want to just introduce yourself real quick.
Yes, hi everybody. So this is Fehmi. I am coming from a technical background as well as like a little bit a small chapter in GameFi or Web3 gaming, but I'm mainly focusing on infra and DeFi, same team as Giovanni here. And I'm glad to be here to talk about the new technologies and the new smart wallets and the account abstraction with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we briefly introduced, today we'll be talking about a concept that is well known in the industry already, which is account abstraction. A couple of months ago, there was this very big hype around the term, and everyone was kind of brainstorming on what this technology or this primitive could lead to. But now, with months already after the launch of this idea or this primitive, we don't have as much buzz in the news and in the headlines, but it's still very it's a technology that has the potential to really revolutionize the way we deal with crypto today and to solve a lot of the problems that we go through on a daily basis by interacting with protocols, by signing transactions here and there, and has the potential to really onboard people from the Web 2 to the Web 3 in a much easier way. So just to start kind of introducing what is account abstraction and how did this come up, I think it's important for us to talk about how it was initially created, at least, which is account abstraction is something that has been discussed in Ethereum and in the blockchain world for a long time already. But initially, people thought of developing it in a way that would require a lot of improvements and a lot of changes in the core structure of the blockchain. And that would be something that would have to be done with a lot of care and in a slow pace. But then a couple of months ago, people came up with the concept of the ERC 4337, which is basically a token standard that enables the same functionalities without having to change the base layer or the underlying protocol of Ethereum. So that would be a much easier way of really applying and implementing such changes to really begin testing and to bring the applications for the blockchain world as fast as possible, right? So ERC 4337 enables account abstraction, right? So it's a token standard that enables something else. But what is account abstraction, right? So I'll define real quick, and then it would be good if Fehmi just gave his view on how he understands account abstraction. But basically, this technology or this primitive or this feature really allows users to customize the on-chain operations. So instead of having to do everything and to sign or act on behalf of your wallet all of the time, you can create programmable interactions. So you can use your wallet in different ways from what we can do now, right? And this really enhances user experience and abstracts a lot of the complexities that we have on the daily basis. So how do you usually see this, Fehmi? And do you have a better way of explaining account abstraction?
Yeah, I'll come to it from the user experience like angle. So technically, in the past, to do something that interacts with a blockchain, most times we would use a wallet like MetaMask, for example, and we would have to kind of approve a currency or sign transactions or pay for gas fees every time we do a transaction on the network. And for non-Web3 natives, that is a very bad user experience. What account abstraction enables, it's a game changer, I would say, is the possibility for people to just interact with an experience without having to deal with the concept of a wallet at all. So imagine someone who's playing a video game. He actually does an action that, for example, buys a shield. That shield could be an NFT. They can buy that shield the transaction is posted to the blockchain, so they actually own that shield. It's tied to their wallet, but they've never done anything like approving transactions or paying for gas fees. They've never had to care about that because the game developer used a smart wallet as well as advanced functions to pay for their gas. And that makes the user experience super seamless and super straightforward. And that unlocks a lot of advantage for game developers, social media. We'll come to those a little bit later. But that's how I would like to explain how it works technically, instead of having your wallet and having to also keep custody of your key phrases and your secret key and maybe losing it at one point. The account abstraction also allows you to log in with your social media or to recover your account using your friends, as we can see a little bit later.
All right. And I think it's super interesting that when you talked about the gaming example, a lot of the enhancements in the user experience came up, and we can already start to kind of unravel each one of them. I think the first one and most obvious one is the abstraction of complexities. So as the name says of account abstraction, we're abstracting a lot of the intricacies and the complexities that we have to do or we have to execute when we are interacting with the blockchain nowadays. Another one is wallet management issues. So I think one of the key problems that we have is that self-custody is very hard nowadays, and that if you just on a click of a button, you can give access to your entire assets and people can steal it from you. Or if you lose your key, your private key, you cannot recover your account anymore. And then basically all the net worth that you have there is lost forever, right? So this is a very, very big issue that we have to solve so that we onboard the mass of the people from Web 2. And I think the third one that I want to mention is new ways of interacting it with the blockchain that we never had before. And one of them that we're going to talk about a little bit later is related to the gasless transactions, right? So performing blockchain transactions without paying the gas. So someone else does it for you. And basically this dynamic is very straightforward for the end user. So in the game that you mentioned, if you want to buy a shield in the marketplace and you don't even know what it's blockchain, you can just do it like a standard transaction in any other game, and then the company will do the background for paying the fees and doing all of the infrastructure for this to happen in the background, right? So I think that's one of the interesting things. And the movement that we're doing is before account abstraction. So how we use it today, our wallets, it can be defined as externally owned accounts, which is basically the standard that we know as you have your key pair. So you have your private key and your public key. You are the one responsible for the custody and for protecting that. And if you do something wrong, that's on you, and it's self-custody. So all of the responsibility lies in the individuals. And we don't have many options to do other than this. And we're transitioning from externally owned accounts to smart contract wallets. So basically what they're doing is they're transforming what today is just a wallet, just a recipient for tokens, into a smart contract, to a programmable feature or tool, right? And then you can embed in your wallet already presets, security kind of settings that you want, or any other features that it would be better for the application that you're going for. I think three ones that would be good to highlight. They kind of touch different things, but they will probably be present in the next couple of years as we interact with the blockchain. The first one is called Safe. And basically what it does is helps on the social logins, as you said. So if you want to log in to a social media and you want to use your Web3 presence or identity as the key, as your key credential, Safe really helps you to do that. But not only that, it also helps you to do other things, such as, for example, a multi-sig scheme. So if you're not familiar with the term, when you have a multi-sig, you need to more than 1 point to approve a transaction for this to go through. So the more points you have in a chain, the harder it is for something to be breached, right? So this really adds to the security of the use of the wallet on a daily basis. So Safe is one of them that is really trying to help consumers on the end part of the application in social media and signing transactions, etc. Another one is called Argent, and I think the key feature that they have is the social recovery. So this was something that we also had with Ledger, and that at the end of the day, it was something very controversial in a way, because maybe introducing a way for you to recover your keys is another failure point, right? So if you're the only one who can access your keys, no one has a way to recover it, you're fully protected, assuming that the self-custody is done right. But if you have a way of doing this recovery by proving your identity or by any other process in the off-chain world, then you have a failure point. And this is something that is controversial, but if we think of mass adoption, we need to have this, right? So it's similar as a bank. So if you lose the password for your bank, if someone else is able to reset it, they will be able to transact on your behalf. But banks do everything to make this very hard, right? And at the same time, if there was no way to recover your password and you lost your bank account password, you would never put your money there if this was just a lost cause. So I think this is something that adds a point of failure that we have to think of how we're going to interact with this, and especially how the companies or the protocols who are offering this will deal with it in the security side of things. But I think this is something that will really help in the onboarding of new users, right? So we have Safe with social logins, multi-sigs. We also have the Argent with more of the social recovery side. And we have a third one, which is called Bravos. And basically what they do is abstract the signature part by allowing the biometric identity that people use on the mobile phone to really set up the wallet access, right? So you use the biometric access as your digital identity. So instead of having a plugin on your computer with, or an extension with MetaMask and your secret private key there, you can embed your biometric identity to represent that same kind of key.
Well, that's a very cool intro to some of the most popular account abstraction wallets or smart wallets out there. And by the way, I'm a big fan of the Bravos wallet. I use it personally, and we're not sponsored by Bravos or anybody. We're here just to share any knowledge that we can share with you guys. So other than these three super popular ones, there are actually dozens of other ones that are being built. Some of them are completely in the back end. Some are actually customer facing, but no security is flawless, I would say. If something is online, it could be breached one way or another. But what these different options give us is they give us choice. We can choose if we want to use a wallet that allows, for example, for social recovery, if that is something we're comfortable with, or we can choose to use our biometric information as a recovery for our wallet. That is also a choice. So today we have choices that we did not have yesterday, and that is what the account abstraction unlocks for us.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And if we're talking about wallets, that's basically the features or the tools that we'll use to interact with other protocols. But we can go even further and think about what are the real world applications of this, right? I think at the beginning, you kind of mentioned the social media part, you mentioned also the gaming part. And I wanted, before we dive into these two, I wanted to just bring also two real world applications of account abstraction that I think can really change the game. Right. The first one, I think, is PayMaster. So this is a component of the ERC 4337 that is called PayMaster. And basically what it does is that it enables another entity to sponsor the gas or the fees that you have to pay in transactions. Right. And this is what we mentioned previously as the gasless transactions. And right now, if you want to onboard a user to your game and your game is built, let's say, on an EVM chain, you would have to teach this user, or the user would have to already know how to create a wallet, how to have its own private key, public key, like we mentioned, also how to deposit money there so that they can start transacting and start paying for gas. And this is a big, very big attrition point that definitely hinders a lot of people to test out a game or to even experiment Web3 in the first place. And with PayMaster, basically what we're doing is that we're abstracting, again, using the abstract term from the account abstraction, we are abstracting this fee portion. And users are basically transacting without paying any gas fees. Obviously, this will be embedded in the cost that they're paying. So if you pay for an item, for example, and you have fees for the marketplace, you would also have the fees for the transactions embedded in it. But in terms of user experience, it's a lot better, right? And I think this is something that will really come to change the game. And when we think of the application of it for gaming, I think it fits very, very well.
So if I can double click on how account abstraction is being used in gaming environments, it is actually being used in multiple ways. The biggest and most important use case is what you just mentioned, which is gasless transactions and the abstraction of all actions that have to deal with tokens or NFTs in game. So the idea is, first, for the game developers to allow people to log in or create an account with their social credentials. This is super popular in games and super important for the gamers. They don't have to log in with MetaMask or log in with your wallet connect, for example, because they don't care about those. They do care about their Google account or Facebook, Instagram, whatever account they want to log in with. So account abstraction smart contracts allow game developers to use social logins to either register or log into a game. That is step number one, which is huge. Step number two is obviously abstracting all the interactions of signing the transactions and paying for the gas fee. So the gamer, especially on mobile games where like it's tough to interact with a MetaMask, for example, even with a Wallet Connect, it is much better if the gamer just focuses on the gaming experience and then buys a shield, buys a sword, buys land in the game, and just keeps building on top of it without having to care about what is my wallet and am I doing something right or wrong here? Should I sign this transaction or not? So all of that is abstracted and they just focus on the game. What it also gives them is obviously true ownership of their assets. So on some of the screens of the backend admin of the games, the gamers would have access to their smart wallet and will have the opportunity of moving their assets to another wallet of their choice if they want to, or they can keep them there because the game reads those wallets automatically. That is also very important for the gaming industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing that we did not touch on, which is related to the 4337, but a completely different thing, actually. And it touches a new way of interacting with NFTs. So that it's actually the ERC 6551. What it does is it kind of acts the same way that we're actually abstracting a wallet with a smart contract that kind of controls that wallet or interacts with it. It's the same concept, but linked to an NFT. So now the NFTs become smarter and less static. Instead of just owning a JPEG, for example, and that's the only thing you can do with it, then now these NFTs having smart contracts associated with them empowers multiple things. Obviously, login and using NFTs, like the simplest form of that, but it's actually having interactive NFTs, NFTs that could grow over time or can interact or even hold value or tokens and have functions to transfer those in and out. Hold other assets, NFTs of NFTs. So it becomes multi-layer asset ownership and super dynamic NFTs, which is something that is super important for games. Imagine a game that allows the players to own land, for example, and then those players can edit their smart contract that is tied to their NFT, which is the land, to have their own rules. So they can say, if you enter my land in game, You can play a casino game, for example, and then they can implement those rules in their own smart contract, and then that runs on the blockchain in a seamless way. And it abstracts all the complexity of building almost a new game mode linked with Web3 technology. So just to summarize, the promise of this technology to gaming is the ability to onboard Web2 gamers in a very seamless way, and having them engage with the game experience without having to care about Web3 or wallets or anything like that, while at the same time using the technology in the back end and giving them true ownership of their assets and giving them the possibility of moving those assets out if they wanted to, as well as enabling multi-universe experiences with the 6551s. The NFT could then have the possibility of allowing the player to use it in multiple different games if those games allow it, obviously. So gaming is one of the true winners when it comes to who is going to be using this technology. And it's very similar to how social media as well is going to be using it. Imagine if you are on a decentralized social network, and every time you are posting or liking a comment or doing an interaction on that social network, you have to approve a transaction and pay for gas fees. That is not sustainable at all. So protocols like Lens, for example, are using smart wallets to make sure that people are just interacting and doing things as if they were on Twitter, for example, without having to take care of the technology behind or am I being charged for these transactions or not. So that makes the user experience much better. It is also used, obviously, to create an account, to use maybe other ways to recover your account because it's super important. So it is unlocking actually way better user experiences. And if you combine the fact that we can today or now really have a very similar Web2 experience on the front end that is backed by Web3 technology, combining that with the scalability advancements of all these layer 2s and all these ZK rollups and all these super fast blockchains, I think we're ready to onboard the millions, if not the billions. So looking forward to the next bull run to see those people coming to Web3 without even noticing that they are doing Web3 actions, actually.
Yeah, and I think that's the last part that you mentioned there is people using Web3 without really knowing. It's the beauty of this. In the past, 2 years in the developments that we had a lot of new protocols, like DeFi was booming. We saw a lot of new applications in social. We saw a lot of ways of interacting in the gaming part. But everyone would always have this mantra of, if we want to achieve mass adoption, we need to abstract things and make it easy for people to use. And it seems like the UX, the way you interact with the blockchain, is just too complex for the average person who uses the internet. People don't trust it. People think it's very hard. Even for us who are full-time and work here, every single day we learn something new, and we're still subject to making mistakes every single day. So I can't imagine if my grandma or my mom, who never heard about crypto at all, if she had to do a transaction and sign something and send here and there. I would be scared if she was just free transacting out there without all of these protections. And I think also to bring back to the examples, you mentioned gaming and also the social part with Lens. A good example of how this is being applied is Visa. And I think that's where this concept of using Web3 or blockchain without knowing really comes into play in a very obvious way. Visa is using this PayMaster feature to enable people to pay things in crypto with a card without even knowing what Ethereum is, right? So if I want to pay for something in ETH, or if I want to pay for something in dollars, but the transaction is done through the Ethereum blockchain, basically what Visa is doing is charging my card like it would do normally, paying the gas fees for me, and then executing the transaction with likely a smart wallet that they have out there that is programmed to do the way they do. And to go further from this, we also have the feature of delegation. So, okay, we're talking here about a one-time payment. I want to purchase something. I use my card, Visa pays on the background, the gas for me, and then the transaction is executed. But what if I want to have subscriptions paid in crypto? So what if I want to have my Spotify just charge in my ETH every single month? Then what do I have? I need to delegate permissions. And account abstraction really enables this. So you can kind of delegate the privileges of signing transactions, of signing actions on your behalf. And then you would give Visa the permission to charge you for this many dollars every month for this service. So again, I think this is, it really touches the using Web3 without knowing, because it's so simple and we're so used to this type of interaction that it won't change anything. It's just better, more efficient, faster, more transparent, right? And it's in the blockchain. So I think that's where we start to get closer to the mass adoption.
Yeah, I would like to double click a little bit on the delegation point that you just mentioned. That is something that is super important, because there are so many scammers, unfortunately, out there that are trying to steal people's tokens from their wallets. It happened to me, very unfortunately. It happened to many people, including Mark Cuban lately. The challenge there is sometimes you can click on the wrong link and approve like a malicious smart contract to spend your tokens on your behalf. And your tokens are gone in a few seconds. And you're left like there, like not understanding what just happened and wondering why it happened, and really angry because, you know, the transactions cannot be reversed and money is gone. But with smart contract wallets now, that becomes way more complex, because now you would have to kind of work around the smart contract that is protecting those. So it is delegation, but done properly. Only Visa can actually charge you for your recurring monthly fees, not any other smart contract or anybody else. So that keeps people's money safe and enables the use of the delegation functions in a proper way. So I wish we had this a few months ago. I wouldn't have gotten hacked, but it was a good learning for me too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think by applying this, you can literally choose the parameters you have, right? So right now, for example, if you are doing a swap in Uniswap, you can control the allowance that you give to the app, right? So it's, oh, I'll give you allowance to spend up to 1,000 USDC or up to 1 ETH. And this is some type of primitive control. But again, as you said, as you mentioned, we're still very, very exposed to every type of attack that we have out there. And some of the transactions, some of the signatures that you can give, basically open your account for full exploit.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
One click and everything is gone. NFTs, tokens, everything. So I think that's where a lot of the features that we talked about on delegation, on security, on multi-sig can help a lot on this security. So I think that, do you want to pull an additional point?
There's one potential last point that I think we did potentially not cover or forgot to cover, which is the possibility for a smart contract wallet to bundle multiple transactions into one call. That is also huge. So instead of having, for example, today, if you want to interact with a token that is not one of the top tokens, first transaction that you need to do is approving that token, obviously, to a certain extent. Then you would have to approve the transaction of swapping, and then you pay the gas fees, and then you wait, and it's done. With a smart contract, you could just click on one button, and all those different actions are bundled into one call, and it's done for you, type of thing. It could also be done with more complex strategies, even leveraging, for example, flash loans and using stuff that uses 3, 4 actions or 5 actions to do something on a derivatives protocol or something like that. So it automates the way that people needed to do multiple transactions to do one action in the end into doing only one action, and the smart contract takes care of the rest.
That's very interesting, because if people who are listening to us know about flash loans, they probably think, oh, this is already possible. It's possible already to do multiple transactions in one click. But I think that the point of flash loans is that it needs to be in the same block for it to work, right? So you need to do everything at once, and the condition needs to close in the same block so that the blockchain can read that and it can execute. What Fehmi is talking about here is conditions that don't necessarily happen immediately. They're just in sequence, and for the UX of the user, when we are interacting, we only have one interaction and all of the processes go in the standard sequence that they have to. So I think, again, that's a very good example, because even after years using wallets, there's still times in which I click there, I'm only given the permission, and I think that I swapped. And then I go to use the tokens, and then I'm like, oh, wait, did it not go through the swap, or did I
God,
not?
I lost my tokens.
Yeah, like, where did it go? Did it not go through? Did I not do the swap? And then I have to go back, and then I'm like, oh, I just gave permission, so now I have to swap. So this is something that not only happens in the swap, but happens into anything that you need more than one step. So I think that's a great example for how we can really use account abstraction in our daily basis and for real world uses. So I think that this is a little bit shorter version of the conversation that we usually have. Account abstraction, again, is something that has been widely discussed, but now that we're seeing this with less hype, less buzz, and more looking into what people are really building, I think we're starting to get a better sense of what would be the first products that we will have that will employ account abstraction, and also what will be the first benefits that we'll probably have from when this technology is adopted in a wider way. And I think just to summarize a couple of things that we were talking about here, when you think of account abstraction, think of easier transactions, so a streamlined process. It will be easier for you to interact. It will be very similar to Web 2. It will also enhance the security. So we touched on a couple of points that talk about signatures, multi-sig, delegating the security of your contract or of your wallet, apologies, to a company like Visa that can serve as a bank or as a security provider for you. But mainly the end goal and the end benefit of account abstraction is to really enable the mainstream adoption. And mainstream, when we talk about mainstream, we talk about people who take many years to shift from one thing they're used to another. So the best way for you to onboard these people is to make the process very similar to what they're already used to. And that's what account abstraction is trying to do. It's trying to look at Web 2, what works there, how efficient are the processes, and then submit people to the same dynamics, but with a different background that they won't even know, right? And the best example that I always hear people talking about is you use email every day, but you have no idea how it works after you click the button, send, right? You don't know where does it go, if there's a block that verifies and there's a validator that has to look into that and gets a reward from it. Like, of course, this is an example that mixes crypto with an email, but the point is the technology doesn't matter. What matters is what is the benefit that it brings and how do we use it. And I think that's what we're touching on here. I hope this has contributed to a little bit more on how you can interpret this narrative, and also be careful with scams. With any narrative, with any new technology, a lot of people will come in with solutions that appear to be very good, but they're not actually very useful. So Fehmi, if you want to give your closing thoughts, final words, or anything that we missed.
I think we've covered almost everything. So yeah, my closing thoughts are exactly the same as yours. This unlocks the access to the Web3 universe from like a multitude of different types of users who don't need to know that it is run by Web3 in the backend. Same as when you buy something on Shopify, you click add to cart, buy now, add your information, and it's done, and you trust that it's done. It should be very seamless with Web3 today, where you have your account, you add your cart and buy, or you're playing a game, you just mint your stuff without knowing. In the end, onboarding people who don't have to care about wallets or technology is what this unlocks. And I'm super excited because just in a few months, there has been so much development and so much adoption that this is actually a game changer, as I mentioned in the beginning.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So if you stayed up until here, thank you very much for listening to us. This was a podcast a little bit shorter, as I mentioned, but I think it's very useful for us to bring these narratives and these concepts that will really change the way we interact with all of the protocols. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe, to hit the like button down here, and we'll be back with you in the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.